Hello, my dears. Daniela here, and welcome to another episode of the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. This episode is brought to you by Addo Aesthetics, the #1 coaching company for spa industry professionals wanting to step into the role of spa CEO. And today I have a solo episode for you. I want to talk to you about the 5 questions that I'm asking myself every year before I'm doing my annual planning. What am I looking at for both personal and professional before I'm setting those financial goals and before I'm getting those in place to say, okay, yeah, like most people, when they think, all right, I'm doing 2023 planning. If you're an entrepreneur, right? I want $1 million spa, or I want to, whatever that number is, whatever you're striving for, reaching for, setting the goal for yourself. But there's so much more to actually achieving a goal than just setting a financial goal, right? It's so much about our personal, how we want to feel, what we want our life to look like. If you are building a business around the life that you want to live, right? And that is the core of what we teach. Is like, it's such an important piece to make sure that you have, I'm not going to use the word balance, but that you feel that you love the way that your life is. Okay. So question number 1 is, what brings you joy? What do you do for fun? And I ask this, and I promise this has to do with work, because what really hit home for me was understanding that if I am a CEO, and if I am the one responsible for driving the ship, for leading my company to whatever our financial goal is, if I am making those decisions, those plans, if I'm leading from an overworked and overwhelmed place, I am doing my company a disservice. So I need to make sure that the most valuable asset of my company, am giving my full self, my full capability to help us reach our goals. And if I am exhausted and overworked and just feeling depleted and feeling like I'm always, all I'm doing is just putting out fires, you're not going to be able to lead the company to that next level, right? Because you're not giving 100% of yourself. So we want to make sure that we are doing things for ourselves that's not work, right? What does your self-care look like? What are you doing outside of work and kids that brings you joy? Because those things will, I'm doing another Thanksgiving episode about this, but there's a TED Talk by Sean Aker. There's also a book called The Happiness Advantage that he wrote that's brilliant. He's a Harvard professor, psychologist, and he was saying, when you do things that bring you joy, he studies happiness. And he said, when you do things that bring you joy, it actually lights up all the learning centers of your brain. And so we typically think, when I reach this milestone, then I will be happy. When I make this much money, then I will be happy. Whatever, insert whatever. But the reality is, when you're happy, when you're fulfilled, you're actually more productive and more capable of hitting those goals. So it's actually the reverse. That's why self-care is important. That's why we have to prioritize ourselves and our needs, so that we are bringing all of our capabilities to the table. Okay. So I want you to answer the question, what brings you joy? And then think about, how can you carve time out for those particular things. For me, I love dancing tango. And with, between having 2 children in the past 5 years and COVID and all the things, tango kind of removed itself from my life. There wasn't dancing for a while during COVID, but I realized that was something that brought me a lot of joy that wasn't a regular thing in my life. And in the past couple of weeks, I've been making that a priority. We make time for the things that are important and valuable for us. Okay. And, as someone that runs a company with a decent amount of people on our team, a decent amount of clients, I have 2 small children, I have a husband that has a very demanding career. Time is something that I don't have a lot of, but somehow I have made the time to dance 5 nights this week. Now, I'm staying here and putting my kids to bed, right? I'm going after I put them to bed. So I'm not sacrificing my mom time, but I still am doing something for myself that fills me up, that lights me up, that brings me joy. And I have been so clear and so focused at work. I've been happier on our team meetings. And I know that radiates through our team. So in just a couple of weeks of me dancing tango, I can already see the difference that it's making in our company. Okay, so number 1, what brings you joy and how do you carve time out for those things that are bringing you joy? Number 2, how do you want to feel in the year? A lot of times you'll see people doing exercises of, what's the word of the year? What's your primary focus? It can be balance or power or money or freedom. There's all these different words, right? For me, it's radical honesty. That's 2 words, but that's what mine is. I don't want superficial. I don't want to beat around the bush because I don't have time. I am looking for real, authentic connection with my community, within my workplace, with the individuals, the other moms at my kids' school that I'm building relationships with people at Tango, right? Anyone in any of my circles. I only want radical honesty. I don't want superficial. I don't want BS. I don't want any of that. And it's also radical honesty with myself. What do I need? What do I want? What brings me joy? And really looking at all of those types of things. Okay. So number 3, the question that I'm asking myself is, how do I hold myself accountable for that? How am I going to make sure that I'm carving time out for these things that bring me joy, that I'm staying focused on only having relationships that are radically honest, right? Where our communication is radically honest, or that I'm being radically honest with myself. For me, that's my Pure Formed Mastermind. So I have a community of women that we have all committed to one another. We all signed our own little contract that said we're in this group. We do monthly calls. We have a Telegram thread. We do 2 trips a year. It's very structured. It's very sacred. And I am open and vulnerable and honest. And I have this group of individuals that I'm sharing the things that are important to me personally and professionally, and want to be held accountable for those things. So I'm leaning on these other women to hold me accountable for the goals that I'm setting for myself. So that is it for me. If you don't have a Pure Formed Mastermind, or if you don't have a circle of women that you feel you can be radically honest with, or you feel that can hold you accountable, start to create it. I didn't always have that, right? I didn't. And that was something that I had to seek out and create for myself. So just wanted to share that it can feel like I don't have women like that in my life. Find them, show up in a way. What you put out is what you get back, right? So that for me is how I'm holding myself accountable. Number 4 is, what coaches do I need in my life to push me out of my comfort zone? So if I'm setting a goal for myself that, whether it's a financial goal, whether it's a personal goal, whatever it is, I may need someone to help me with that skill set. If I'm asking myself, am I the CEO of a $5 million company? Right now, I'd say no. And so what do I need if that's my goal? what do I need to do? Who do I need to become? And what coaches and support do I need to get myself to that place? And so I'm very strategic about the programs that I'm investing in, the coaches that I'm investing in. Like, where am I spending my time? So that if I know that I'm weak in a certain area or need improvement in a certain area, that I'm going to hire someone that's going to push me into that space. Right now, I'm working with a relationship coach, and I'm working with her to help me get more in my feminine. That's something that's been important to me for the past 6, 7, 8 months. I'm very comfortable in my masculine. You give me a spreadsheet, you give me a goal, right? You ask me to run the show, I'm very good. But when it comes to receiving, surrendering, right? Being in that feminine energy, which is a very beautiful energy. And I'm not saying like you can't be feminine and powerful. You absolutely can. It's about having a balance between the two energies, right? So, and there's a whole other episode we can do to talk about that. And in fact, I would love to do an episode around that. But what the main thing is, what coaches, courses, programs, training, etc., do you need to push you out of your comfort zone and to help you grow in the areas that you still need to grow in? And the last question that I'm asking myself as I'm setting my goals for the year is, what's the intention of this year? And this was actually my coach asked me this. And I thought one of my coaches asked me this. She said, is this a scaling year or a sustaining year? And I thought, what a beautiful question, because so often with our masculine energy, we think that we have to have this crazy double-digit growth year after year after year. And you don't, right? Building a business is a marathon, not a sprint. We are focusing on building a business around the life that we want to live. You might be having a baby this year. I feel like there's a lot of women in my world that are having babies this year, or plan to have a baby this year. You may realize that you need more time for yourself and you need to do quarterly vacations. Great. You may, there's so many different things that can come up, and you can say, you know what, I'm going to just sustain. I want to hit the same amount that I did the year before, and maybe I'll focus on my profit margin a little bit more. That's okay. Make a conscious choice that I'm going to be thrilled if we hit the same amount. Good for you. There is nothing wrong with that. Okay. But I always want it to be a conscious choice that you are paving the way for the life that you want to live. Okay. So let me just do a quick recap of these. What do you do for fun? What brings you joy, and how do you carve time out for that in your world? How do you want to feel in the coming year? So what's your word? How do you hold yourself accountable? So for the way you want to feel, for the bringing you joy, whatever you want to accomplish, how are you going to hold yourself accountable? What coaches, courses, programs do you need to invest in to help you reach the goals that you set for yourself? And then, is this a scaling year or a sustaining year for you? Okay, so I'm answering all of those questions before I ever set my financial goals. It's something that I really need to understand before I get into the nitty-gritty of what we want the year to look like for the business. Okay, so I hope that this brings you value. I want to remind you that planning for 2023 starts now. It started a month ago, right? You've really got to answer these questions for yourself, because if you do have big financial goals, if you do have big changes that you want to happen in your company, if this is a scaling year for you, you don't want to figure out how you're actually going to do that in January, right? If you're like, hey, we're at 500,000, we want to do 1 million. Okay, great. So what are you going to be doing differently? You don't want to just fly by the seat of your pants, right? Nothing changes if nothing changes. If you continue to do the same actions that you did this year, if you continue to be the same person that you were this year, how do you expect your company to grow, double in revenue, if nothing else changes? It doesn't make sense, right? So you've got to really get clear on, what do I want? And then what is going to change to help me hit that goal? Okay. And really the most important thing is remembering that you cannot lead a company from an overworked and overwhelmed place. Okay. So I hope that this brings you value. I hope that you ask yourself these questions. Really, really important piece. And I wish you guys all so much success in the coming year. Happy planning. And of course, if you have any questions and you want to keep this conversation going, head on over to the Spa Marketing Made Easy Facebook group, and we will answer and catch you in there.